Hey, you guys. Welcome to your prep. As you see, it's a voiceover today. Sorry to throw you off. It's super annoying watching my lips move and the words not come out the same way you were hearing them. So just disregard everything you see me talking about and just listen because, we're going to still guide you through it. I completely messed up when I was recording this and I didn't plug the speaker in all the way, so it didn't record voice. So frustrating, but we are still going to get through it together, just like we always do. All the next weeks, obviously, it'll never be a voiceover again. This is just kind of what I have to do right now because it was an hour-long prep, and I just don't think I have time to do it again. But this will be just as helpful. We're going to get through it. We're week 27, 4-7 meal prep. So let's bang this thing out. You guys are going to absolutely adore this menu. One of my favorites, all my favorite dishes. If you haven't made my salmon burgers before, you're going to love them. I made them for a client a couple summers ago, and they were on repeat in our house for a long time, and that's like my number one most made recipe. That's on my site. People love that recipe. So we're going to bang this up together. Sorry about the voiceover, but we're going to get through it and follow along. I'm still going to be showing you what I do and guiding you through, even though it's a voice memo. Okay? Let's do this. You guys could follow along on prepandrally.com, log in, either download your PDF or you could print it out, whatever's easiest for you, okay? So this week we are making these incredible salmon burgers. We have asparagus, that green goddess dressing, which is, I think, my favorite sauce of life. Shoo chicken, which you're going to love, super yummy quesadillas, and chicken Paillard, which is such a versatile recipe, so delicious with that Orzo and peas. You guys are going to love it. Takes a little bit of time, to actually get through the prep. This week's prep happens to be a little bit longer than usual, but it's just because that chicken takes a little bit more time to prepare. But I promise you, it is so well worth it. And be sure to keep these recipes, use them week after week after week because they're so good. Make a little cookbook for yourself, collect them all there, and use them up, all right? Let's get to it. We're going to roast our two vegetables at the same time. We're going to roast green beans in one sheet pan, and then we have our asparagus on the other. All right, follow along your PDF. You have all the recipes there, and let's do this thing, okay? You guys are going to be so happy with all these recipes all week long. So I always do it at the same time, a little bit of olive oil on the green beans, olive oil on the asparagus, and this way you only get your hands dirty one time when you have to wash them. So just season up with some salt. Preheat your oven to 425 degrees if you have not done so already. Do this at the same time. This way you only get your hands dirty once, one trip to the sink. And you guys know I keep a towel next to my workstation so you don't have to run back and forth. We're all about efficiency. So, be sure that you are setting up your workstation. You have all your recipes, all your ingredients laid out. Do that work in advance so that you're not frazzled. And that is how we are able to bang these meal prep sessions out so quickly because we set ourselves up. So take that time before you actually prep to get your station set up, get yourself set up, and set yourself up for a super successful prep. All right? So we're just going to pop these in the oven, 425 degrees. The asparagus is going to take about, 15 to 20 minutes or so. Green beans will probably take a little bit longer, maybe 20 to 25 minutes, but it really depends on how big your green beans are. The French haricot vert ones are thinner, so they take a little bit less time, whereas the bigger, fatter green beans take a little bit longer. So just turn your timer on just in case and keep an eye on it. All right, let's do it. Get your towel, garbage by your station, efficiency. I think that's what I'm saying there. All right, and make sure, I'm all about having just a few kitchen tools that you use over and over again. So today you'll see we'll use our microplane, which I absolutely adore. I use mine all the time. But make sure you have yourself a good cutting board and a good knife. Keep it sharp. It'll just make cooking so much more enjoyable. I think I was turning on my timer because I'd forgotten. So be sure you do that so you don't forget about it. Next, we're going to start working on that orzo, okay? I have a medium meat pan here. I already have my water in there ready to go. So we're going to measure out the orzo and let that start cooking. It cooks up so quickly. It's such a good orzo. But if you don't feel like buying orzo, especially so close to Passover coming up, you can totally use any grain you like. Orzo is kind of just like a little pasta. Not necessarily the healthiest, but it's super delicious. But if you have wheat berries in your pantry or barley or any kind of grain that you're trying to use up for the holiday, use whatever you like. All right. Otherwise, follow along with your recipe in your PDF and use Orzo. Okay. Oh, and here I was explaining how my kids refused to eat the Orzo the first time I made it. They had no idea what it was. And I kept telling them it's literally white pasta. You guys are going to love it. And once they finally tried it, they were like, oh my gosh, you're right, Mommy. It's delicious. I love it. And that just shows you kids. Like when you give them something that looks different, they're usually scared to try it, even if it's something that they know that they love. Like it's white pasta. They love that. There's nothing not to love, but presenting it differently kind of scares them. But it just shows you if you present things differently, you have more opportunity to try and get them to eat new things. It's all about the presentation. So if you have picky kids, I feel ya. And I've worked with a bunch of picky kids before, and just get creative and try things different ways. All right. I just added up a little bit more water in my pot, but you want to be like halfway up the pot or so. And we're just going to boil this just like a regular pasta. Okay. So you're going to bump up your heat. We're going to boil this for about 7 to 9 minutes. Okay. Or just follow the package instructions and let that cook up. Okay. And again, just reiterating, anything you have in your pantry, just feel free to use up. And we're just going to finish this off with some lemon and some peas, some olive oil, but feel free to leave it plain if you want, and a microplane. I told you, I love a good old microplane. It's just such a great kitchen tool, and you could use it for so many things. And today we're going to be using it for our ginger and for our lemon zest. It's just a great way to add flavor to just about any dish. It takes 5 seconds. It washes off really well, and it's a kitchen tool you'll have for the rest of your life. I've had mine for at least 5 years now. So definitely get your hands on one. And this is the chicken that we're going to be using for that chicken Paillard. So we're going to start working on that while our water is coming up to a boil for the Orzo, because we don't want to waste any time. If you can buy your chicken pre-pounded thin, that'll save you a lot of time, and we're all about that. Okay? Or you could do it yourself like I did. So totally up to you, but sometimes it's worth spending a little bit extra just to get it done. And that way you don't have to dirty up a cutting board or another knife or spend the time doing it. So for our chicken Paillard, I know we're hopping around a little bit, but just wait for that water to boil, and then we're going to add that Orzo into it. But in the meantime, we are maximizing. Always got to maximize and jump from one thing to the next. Otherwise, you don't get much done. Okay? And don't forget about the vegetables you have in the oven. So the chicken Paillard, I have a plate here with the flour. You have a nice big pan. You want it to be like a nice big open pan. And we're basically just going to coat this in flour. We're going to season the flour up really well, dredge the chicken in there, and then pan fry it. And we're using the same chicken for the Paillard, and we're going to set aside some of that chicken that we're half preparing for the Paillard for the Mushu chicken. I'm going to guide you through it. Don't worry. Don't freak out. I'm going to show you what we're going to do, but basically get another container that you could reserve the chicken for the Mushu chicken for later on in our prep. You'll see how we'll utilize that. But basically for now, just grab yourself a plate or a storage container for setting aside some of that chicken. You'll see. We're basically making chicken one time so that we could utilize it in 2 different ways, which is how we do things, right? Anyone else loving this voiceover? I find this so funny. I've never done this before, so learning. All right, so we have our flour here. You can use whole wheat flour, you can use white flour, you could use spelt flour, whatever you like. It just really helps lock in that moisture in the chicken and helps keep it super, super moist and juicy. So it's really great to do it this way. You could just grill it if you want, but what's so great about doing it this way is that it really makes the chicken so juicy and delicious. Plus, what's great about it is that once we make the Paillard sauce, it'll thicken up beautifully because we have some of that flour, which is starch, which will thicken the sauce up. So I'm just moving over my pan for the Orzo to my center burner just because it's a little bit bigger. So let that water keep coming to a boil, and when it does, cook that Orzo, okay? We're just seasoning up our flour here with some salt, and you want to just season that flour really well. You could season each individual piece of chicken, but why do that when you could just season up your flour really well with some salt and pepper? Because that's going to be coating the chicken anyways. So I believe if you just take your flour, season it really well with some salt and pepper, you could even do some onion powder or garlic powder, any flavors you like. And we're just going to do a very light dusting and coating with the chicken. So here you see I'm adding some garlic powder here. But feel free to modify. Always add in any spices you like. It's sitting right there anyways on my counter. So why not? Little added boost of flav. Okay. Just give that a little mix around. And a tong is the best tool to use here because you're going to be taking that chicken, dredging it lightly in that flour, and then giving it a nice sear in that hot pan. And you're gonna get these both sides golden brown, beautiful, delicious. All right, you guys can see what I'm doing? Here we go. Getting our pan. I just turned the heat on. We're gonna get that pan nice and hot. I have some oil in there. It's obviously not ideal to use extra virgin olive oil for high temperature cooking, but that's kind of what I got right now, so I'm just rolling with it. But if you have either a light, a light in color olive oil, that's better for frying. Extra virgin's better for sauces and dressings. Okay, this is our favorite chicken, is what I'm trying to say here, because I made it when I tested it out a couple weeks ago. We devoured it. We literally ate the entire thing, and Mike, who happens to be picky, even though he says he's not picky, he pretends he's not picky, but he is. He happens to be a very good critic, and he loved this chicken. He said it's like one of the best chickens ever made. And you know why? It's because the sauce gets so thick and delicious, but also the chicken just stays super moist and juicy. And especially when you're using chicken breast, it tends to dry out really easily. So that is why chefs use this technique of the dredging in flour, because it really locks in that moisture. And in general, searing any kind of meat to get that nice golden crust and that caramelization and locking in that flavor, that's just the best method of preparation to keep anything juicy or moist and delicious. Even if you're finishing it in the oven, as long as you sear it on both sides in a super hot pan, cast iron is great, but you don't need to use cast iron. It really helps. So try it out. All right, so you're just going to shake it off like this, and that's like the best way to just get off all that extra flour. We want like a very, very, very thin coating. Make sure your oil's hot and sizzle away. Make sure you don't overcrowd your pan, because that's really going to bring down the temperature of your pan, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep things nice and hot in there. You want to make sure there's room for the chicken to do its thing. So leave some space between the pieces and try not to overcrowd, okay? So just work in batches. And I told you, this is the part of the prep that takes the most amount of time. You could do this the day of. I'd recommend just doing it now, banging it out. You could also, cut the recipe in half if you're less people, obviously, which will take a little bit less time. But honestly, stick with me and we're going to get through it together. It's just more time consuming because you kind of have to be there flipping and manning the pan. But we got this. We're going to get through it, and you guys are going to be so happy you did. Be sure you save this recipe because you're going to want to make it over again. I also have a little storage container like I told you to get out. Be sure you have that standing by because we're going to put a few of the pieces of chicken into that storage container, and that is what we're going to utilize later on in this prep in our mushu chicken. So even though this chicken takes a while, we're really using the same chicken for two different recipes. So essentially it really isn't taking that much time if you think about it that way. All right, so keep dredging that chicken while your chicken is cooking in the pan so that you don't waste any time. Give it a really nice thin coating. Shake, shake, shake. Be sure, you really have a thin coating. You don't want a big globby, coating of flour. That's not what we're looking for. Very thin, very light, crisp, golden, beautiful. All right, and try not to move around the chicken too much in the pan. You really want it to do its thing. And when it's nice and golden on the other side, you can flip. All right, my orzo's ready. I am just throwing that orzo into our pot, and we're going to let that cook. I mean, it's basically a pasta. You could follow your package instructions, but it should take anywhere from like 7 to 9 minutes, kind of just depending. But test it. Be sure to try it every so often and see where it's at. Okay? You don't want it to get too mushy. I just set a colander in my sink, so right when the orzo is done, we could throw it in the sink, wash it off really well, and that'll help get a lot of the starch off of it, which will keep it from sticking together. All right, so have that standing by. Be sure to check your vegetables in the oven. If your timer is going off or if you have not set a timer, just don't forget about those, okay? Chicken is doing its thing. It's almost ready to flip. All right. Oh, I think what I was just saying was that pan of Orzo, be sure that, oh, look at that golden color. So pretty. Clearly it's not cooked through because we haven't cooked the other side yet, but like such gorgeous golden color. I mean, that's what you're looking for. Be sure that your Orzo is not boiling over, is what I was trying to say before, because that's the worst when you look at your pot of pasta and it's just boiling over like crazy. So be sure you bring it up to boil, but then lower immediately so that it's cooking and boiling, but not overboiling. All right, just cook it like pasta. It's really the same thing, it's just smaller. Keep dredging that chicken. I know it takes a little bit of time. I promise we are going to get through this quickly. And then 3 pieces of that chicken we're going to be reserving for the mushu chicken. And I say 3 pieces, meaning 3 full chicken breasts. And we just cut each chicken breast in half. So, that's really like 6 of those smaller pieces. Okay? Be sure you keep checking on those. You don't want to let them burn. Oh, look at that color. Okay, I can't get over it. Look how pretty. Such a shame. This had to be a voiceover, you guys. This was a really good prep. Like, I finished this video being like, this was such a good one. So informative, so good. And then I see the plug is halfway out. Technology, I'm telling you. But it's cool, though. Hopefully this is still helpful. We are working with it. Be sure you add more oil as needed, okay? And just keep taking those out and flipping them as you get through it. And make sure you have your little storage container standing by. You're going to be reserving about 6 of those smaller pieces of chicken into that container. And we're going to be using that for the mushu chicken later on. So have that standing by, okay? Just keep dredging. I don't even know what I was saying. I'm like trying to figure out what I was saying so I could try to tell you, but I have no clue. Man. But it's cool. Just keep dredging. We're getting this together. We got this. It's a lot of chicken, I know, but 2 different recipes, okay? And what's so fun about this recipe is that you could really do so many different things with the sauce. It could be a lemony sauce. I'm not using sage today because it's kind of harder to find. It's more of like a fall herb, so my grocery store actually didn't have it, so I'm leaving it out. But you could use thyme. You could even use dried oregano, which I'm pretty positive I put in here. We'll see towards the end, but use any dried herb that you have. Leave it out completely. You could even put some sun-dried tomatoes. So keep this recipe and use it over and over again and switch it up any which way because it's a goodie, okay? You're going to love it. And here I'm just letting you know that you don't necessarily need to finish cooking the chicken completely right now because we're taking all this chicken out of the pan and then we're going to be adding it back into the pan with the sauce. So it'll finish cooking that way. And it's going to suck up all those delicious sauces. It's going to be so good. And even the mushu chicken, once we slice it up and put it into the cabbage and the vegetables, it's going to continue cooking there as well. So no need to fully cook. Your chicken also may take a little bit less time if you bought it pounded thin. Mine's like a little bit thicker, so it's taking a little longer. But if yours is thinner, it's going to take less time than mine. So just cook until you see it's golden brown and for the most part cook through. But don't worry if it's not fully cooked through because we will finish cooking it. Do not worry. It's not done when we pull it off, I promise. It's going to be going right back in with the sauce. So you have two different options here, which is what I was explaining. You could cook the chicken completely, put it in your storage container. Oh, so here you go. I'm just pulling all the chicken off for the mushu, by the way. So that's all going into that storage container. All right. And I just need to add like one more piece of chicken for the mushu, and then we should be good. So you want about 6 pieces for that mushu chicken. Set it aside. The rest we're going to put on a separate dish, which we're going to use for the Paillard, okay? Make sure you have space in between all that chicken. Keep replenishing your oil as needed. Here I was just saying about like high heat cooking and temperature, how extra virgin is not the most ideal thing. Better to use a light olive oil or even a canola oil or an avocado oil, really any other oil, because olive oil tends to have a high smoke point, especially extra virgin. So it's more likely to brown really quickly and sometimes burn if it's too high. So be sure to keep an eye on it, okay? But what I was saying was, with this chicken, you're going to see in this video what I do is I take all the chicken out and then I make the sauce in the pan and then I put the chicken back in with the sauce and I let it finish cooking in there for the last like 6 or so minutes. But if you wanted to cook the chicken fully, put it in a baking dish and then cover it with the sauce that you've already prepared in the pan. Pour it over the chicken. You don't have to put the chicken back in the pan. So you'll see the way I'm going to do it here. Basically making the sauce in the pan, adding the chicken to it, letting it cook together for a few minutes. The alternative, you could just put it in a storage container and make your sauce and then pour the sauce over the chicken in the storage container without putting the chicken back in the pan. Totally up to you. I think it's almost better to let it cook together in the pan because it gives it an extra opportunity to fully soak up those flavors. So check out these asparagus. Looks so good. I like to undercook them a little bit. Nice, bright green. They have a little bit of firmness to them. And that way when you reheat them throughout the week, they don't completely die, right? I don't think there's anything sadder than a brown vegetable, right? It's so sad to me. All right, let's keep going here. I'm just giving that orzo a little mix around, make sure everything is cooking through. I'm going to taste it. You always want to taste your food. Otherwise, you're never going to know. Perfectly al dente. Yum. Definitely ready. Taking it off the heat. Going to throw it into my colander that I have standing by in the sink. Wash it off really well, which is going to help keep that starch, get that starch off, which will keep it from sticking together. And then we're also going to be adding olive oil and some lemon juice, which will also help with that. All right, here we go. We're back. Keep flipping that chicken. I told you, this chicken is like the most time-consuming thing. But it's so good, though. It's really so good. I promise it's worth it. I'm all about, like, roasting chicken, just throwing it in the oven and, having it be hands-off. But sometimes preparing like this is just worth the effort. And you will see what I'm talking about soon. Once you taste it, you'll get it. You'll get it. So I just need one more piece of chicken for the mushu. And then the rest of our chicken is going to be used for the Paillard. So again, like 6 of these little pieces, which is like 3 full chicken breasts, meaning 6 of the chicken breasts cut in half. Put in that little glass container, which we're going to utilize at the end of the prep in our mushu chicken. Okay. And even though we had raw chicken in that bowl, it's totally fine. We're going to be putting the Paillard chicken into that bowl because I'm going to continue cooking mine. So either you could cook your chicken fully, like I was saying, put it in a storage container, make your sauce, and then pour it in there. Or if your chicken is a little bit thicker like mine, I'm leaving mine like slightly undercooked. I'm going to put it back in that bowl so I don't have to waste another bowl because the chicken is somewhat raw anyways. And then I'll make my sauce in the pan and then put the chicken all back into that pan to finish cooking it. And that is when I'll use a different tongue and put it into a new fresh storage container. So in case you're worried about contamination, don't worry. We're going to continue cooking this stuff anyways. So don't fret. Not sure what I'm doing here. I'm just like checking, making sure we're on track, right? I think I figured it out. All right, so remember that bowl? I told you. It's okay. My chicken is like halfway cooked anyways, so don't worry. I'm just sticking it in there, and I'm going to get the rest of that chicken in there. So that's all the chicken that I need for the mushu. Take that, set it off to the side. We're going to get to that a little bit later. All right? So we're sort of baking out 1.5 recipes by making the chicken this way. So get the rest of your chicken in that pan. We're still going. And the truth is, I could edit these videos to cut out all this time, but because most of you are actually watching to cook along with me and not just watching to watch for fun, I think it's important to have all this time because then we're really doing it together. And especially when my voice is actually on the video and it's so much better, it's more enjoyable. So this, I know is not ideal, but I hope it's okay. I think it's still helpful though. Still guiding you through it. Still showing you how it's done. You guys got this. You're such rock stars at this point. I'm trying to sneak in this one last piece. All right, get him in there. All right, cool. Don't want to overcrowd. And if you do overcrowd slightly, be sure to just raise your heat a little bit. Yes, I know that's all raw stuff there. Don't worry. It's not cooked yet. It's partially cooked. So it's totally fine that it's in a raw bowl with the tongue that touched raw chicken as well. Don't worry. So we have our orzo. I'm just going to get a storage container, get that in there, and that way it doesn't keep cooking. And that way we're already set and all done, and we could mix the olive oil, the lemon juice, and our seasoning right in that bowl. Orzo's so yummy. It's such like a teeny tiny little pasta. It's so cute. It's such a great ingredient. And it really makes a nice side dish. And for spring, I mean, it doesn't get better than peas for spring. I mean, that equals, right? Doesn't that equal spring? I feel like lemon and peas and asparagus, which are all featured in today's prep. So springy. I love it. So get all of your orzo in there. And you see how we're doing a couple things at once. You know, we still have those green beans in the oven. Don't forget about those. We have our chicken going. Be sure to continue checking on that and flipping as needed. And just clear off your little board. Oh, I dropped a bunch of orzo on there. So getting it all in there. And I also got my board all wet from that pasta. So make sure you work with a nice clean workspace. It'll make you less frazzled. Plus, it'll avoid a lot of cleanup at the end of the prep if you clean a little bit as you go and work neatly. Plus, setting up your prep in your stations the way we do it. So helpful. Really helps save time. Check out those green beans. I heard my buzzer go off, so I went to go get those, but make sure you keep cooking if yours need it. Just keep adjusting your timer so you don't forget about those. All right, so far we have the asparagus done and the green beans, and the chicken's almost done. Taking a sip of my LaCroix. I really miss drinking wine, but I've been filming these in the morning, and I think it's a little bit too much to drink wine that early. But whatever you're drinking, cheers, and be sure to stay hydrated. All right, keep flipping that chicken. This is the final batch of chicken, I promise. So just keep flipping it as it's ready. Add more oil as needed. We are almost done. All right. We're going to season our orzo up next, I think. So there's that chicken for the orzo, basically, or chicken for the mushu chicken. Just kind of going over everything that we have done already. We have the 2 vegetables done, the chicken for the mushu set aside, the rest of the chicken finishing up for the Paillard. And now we're just going to finish up with our orzo. Okay, so we have some peas, frozen peas. You don't have to do anything with them. Just literally take them, put them in there. If they are frozen, totally fine. It's going to thaw with the heat of the orzo. And also by the time you're actually eating this, it will not be frozen anymore. So just throw those peas in there. They're so bright, so colorful. I love it. And we're just seasoning it with a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, and in the recipe, I say to use a lemon juice and half of a lemon and zest of half a lemon. But Andy and Joe really prefer it plain, and they're the ones that are going to be eating this most. So I'm not going to put it in today, but make any adjustments needed. If you like lemon, add it, or you could even serve it with some lemon on the side. So whoever likes it can put it in. But my kids just like it plain like this, and honestly, I'm totally fine keeping it that way for them. I was happy they actually tried Orzo because they were terrified by it. Even though I don't know why I was like begging them to try it. It's like a white pasta. But I had like a large container of it. So I was like, no, I want you to try it. We're eating this. It's pasta. Eat it. And the second time around, they tried it. That is done. Set it aside. Finished. Beautiful. 2 different vegetables. Got the Orzo done with the peas and the 2 chickens that we have going on. Flip the rest of that chicken. Let it work on the other side. And then we're going to get started finally on the sauce for this Paillard. I know, it's taken a while. But look at that golden color. I mean, it's so beautiful. Showing you again, 3rd time. Clearly, I get excited when I see things turn nice and golden brown. All right. So let's just get all our ingredients ready for the sauce for the Paillard. Okay, we're going to take the rest of the chicken that we have in the pan, put it back into that bowl so that we have all of it off of the flame. In that same pan, we are going to make our sauce, and then I like to add the chicken back into the sauce and let it cook for the last couple minutes, which will help my chicken finish cooking as well. If you opted to do the other way, finish cooking your chicken completely if it's thinner. Put it in a storage container. We'll make our sauce, and you can just take the sauce and pour it over that chicken in your container. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. But if you want to keep cooking it in the sauce, which I recommend because it just makes it more flavorful, and it helps thicken up the sauce as well because you have that flour in there. So just follow my lead. I'll show you. So we have some vegetable stock here. I'm not using sage today just because I couldn't find, and there's no need. So I have my lemon. We're going to zest it and juice it, and it is so good. Even my kids loved this, and it's not too lemony, I don't think, but feel free to adjust it as you need. But it's just this really, really nice lemony sauce. And you know what you could even do? If you have some white wine laying around, you could totally throw some white wine in there. That would be beautiful too. I just took out some dried oregano, and I added some dried oregano in here as well because I didn't have the sage, and it just adds like another little added flavor. And I feel like everybody has oregano at home, so feel free to use that and in place of the sage. Thyme is also really nice here. You could use thyme as well. All right, and all those, lost one. All those little, this is hilarious. All those little brown bits on the bottom of the pan, that is called the fond. That's like the technical word. So take your pan off of the heat, and you see that smoke? That's a good sign. That's a nice hot pan, but you want to take it off of the heat, slowly add in your liquid, and we're basically going to deglaze the pan. So we're going to scrape up all those little yummy crusty bits at the bottom of the pan. Crazy flavorful. Crazy flavorful. It's called the fond, as I mentioned. Another fancy little chef term. I just can't speak today. So what we're going to do is kind of mix it around and pick up all those little bits at the bottom of the pan. Not only does this make it easier to clean your pan later on, because you're scraping off all the browned parts, but it's going to flavor the sauce so beautifully. Here I'm talking about the fond, which are those little brown bits. All right, so that gives it flavor. So good. So mix around your vegetable stock. You can also use a chicken stock here, totally up to you. All right, and then to that, we're going to add our lemon. So I sent out in our weekly email a link to the microplane that I use. I'm obsessed with it. It's one of the easiest things that you can buy. It's inexpensive. I think it's like maybe $12 or something. I've had mine for like 5 years. Such a great, easy flavor booster to anything. I use it for baking, cooking, so many different uses. So get your zest in there, and then we're just going to cut it in half and juice our lemon as well. And try to use a fresh lemon. Those bottled lemon juices, they just don't do justice. Doesn't even taste like lemon juice. Sometimes you can get away with it, but when it comes to this sauce, try to go for the real stuff if you can. So at this point, you could add in a little splash of white wine if you wanted, which would be yummy. And I just added in my oregano. But you could use thyme as well. You could even use some rosemary or put in your sage if you were using it and were able to find it. So just juice your lemons in there. I put my hand underneath it to catch any of those little seeds. I think I learned that from the Food Network years ago, and people are still amazed whenever they see it. They're like, what a great technique. But it is. It's really smart. It catches all your seeds, kind of like a little colander, so that you don't get the seeds in there and you just get the juice. So throw it in there. Let that sauce kind of come up to a little bit of a boil. And then what we're going to do is just take our chicken and nestle it all in that sauce. Guys, you're going to love this. So again, the chicken isn't fully cooked, so I'm going to put it in that sauce. Let the heat of the sauce continue to cook that, and we'll cook it for another, 5 to 8 minutes or so until it's fully cooked through. That sauce has thickened slightly, and everything has completely blended together. It's going to be so flavorful. So good. So you have your Mushu chicken set aside. Don't touch that chicken. Leave that for later. But all that chicken that you set aside for the Paillard, which is the remaining, try to nestle it in that pan. And try to make sure everyone gets to some of the sauce. And halfway through, you can and should flip the chicken so the other side gets some loving as well. All right, so now get rid of all of that raw contaminated, the bowl, the tong, everything. Actually, the tong I'm going to keep using to just flip it, and then I'm going to get rid of it. And I get a bunch of questions about tongs and the contamination. The tong is going into that hot liquid, so it's essentially cooking it anyways. So don't worry so much about that. You could get rid of it and use a new one, but the chicken isn't even fully cooked through at this point, and neither is the Mushu chicken. So don't worry about it, okay? So grab your storage containers. I'm going to be putting my Paillard chicken in that baking dish. So have that standing by. Flip all that chicken to the other side. Oh, yes. So good. It's going to finish cooking through now. And you should see your sauce thickening up nicely. You want to work on a medium high heat or so. You want it to be simmering, and that surface area is going to help evaporate some of that liquid in the sauce, which is going to make your sauce so thick and yummy and delicious. So good. And here I was giving a massive shout out to my friend Ilana Gadish. We actually ate by her house for a lunch one time, and she made this chicken, very similar style chicken, with sun-dried tomatoes, also some sage in it, so it was totally inspired by her. So if you're watching this, Gadish, this goes out to you, girl. So good. I'm always really inspired by restaurants that I go to, meals that I go to, things that I see on Pinterest, Instagram, wherever, cookbooks. Always inspired, and you guys inspire me too. So keep sending in your requests and inspiration for menus, because I truly do use them. All right, are we ready to move on from this chicken? You guys are ready to kill me. All right, worth it though. Remember, worth it. So grab all your ingredients for the Mushu filling. We're basically going to make the vegetable component of the Mushu chicken. And then we're going to take our reserved chicken, slice it up, and add it into it at the end. So I have my shredded cabbage. Okay, if you could buy this pre-shredded, even better. Just will save you time. I did it myself, but it does save time if you could buy it pre-done. And I have my mushrooms. So the mushrooms are already ready to go. So I'm going to get that started so we save time. Throw your mushrooms into your pan. I have a large pan here again. I'm moving my chicken Paillard. It is basically done. I'm going to let it continue. I'm setting it off to the side and keeping it in my pan so it continues cooking for a few more minutes while it cools off. But otherwise, it's basically done. It looks phenomenal. It smells insane in this kitchen. And you guys are going to love it. So get that pan nice and hot. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. And we're going to throw in the mushrooms. Soon we're going to add that chicken into the pan too. And everything is going to all come together. All right, here we go. We're starting. Olive oil in that pan. Let that get nice and hot while it's And while we're mincing our garlic and our ginger, which takes some time, we're going to let our mushrooms get a head start in there. So I just threw in our mushrooms, let those start heating through, and then take your ginger, give it a good peel. You could peel it with the back of your spoon. I was just lazy, so I'm just cutting it with a knife. But the best way to do it is with the back of your spoon because you waste the least amount that way. So get it peeled. You could use pre-minced ginger, and you can also use frozen ginger. I freeze mine all the time. You could also use ginger powder, totally your call. But I'm just using my same handy dandy maker plane, and it's just another way to use it. It's so convenient, and it kind of turns it into this like almost like a cream, like a ginger cream. Like look at that, it's so finely minced. So it's a great way to really bring out all those aromatics and let it flavor that entire dish. And trust me, your kids are going to love this. If your kids don't like mushrooms, you can leave the mushrooms out. That's totally fine. My kids aren't the biggest fan of mushrooms, so I kind of picked it out for them. But they love this chicken. Andy actually said to me, Mommy, it doesn't taste like Chinese food, but it tastes so much better, Mommy. This is the best Chinese food ever. It was pretty adorable. She loved it. She had like 2 whole bowls. But look at that minced ginger. So good. And it's so healthy for you. All right, so get that ginger in there. If you could use fresh, that is ideal. Make sure you get every little bit in there. And then we're going to start working on our garlic. Again, you could also use pre-minced, but fresh is always better if you can. Just give that a little mix around. All right, and throw that ginger back in the freezer if you want to pre-peel it. It'll be even easier for you to use the next time you pull it out, but keep it in your freezer because it's an ingredient that you can always use, and then actually grating it while it's frozen is even more efficient. Look at that chicken. Oh my goodness. And as it sits, the chicken is going to continue soaking up all those flavors. So good. This chicken makes me so happy. I promise you're going to love it. It's phenomenal. And you could doctor it up any way you like and use it so many different ways. So save that recipe. All right. All right. Here we go. Let's keep going. Give your mushrooms a little mix around, and then we're going to try to get our garlic in there, and then let our cabbage start wilting down. So have all of your ingredients kind of set off to the side. Mushu chicken is one of my favorite Chinese dishes. Whenever I go to a Chinese restaurant, I get that because I feel like it's like somewhat-ish on the healthier side from a Chinese restaurant. Obviously at home, the way we're doing it is much healthier. But that's usually like a pretty decent option other than like steamed vegetables, which is obviously the healthiest, and steamed or boiled chicken. But mushu chicken is usually a pretty good option. I usually eat it without the wrapper. So the wrapper, I mean, I guess it's called a wrapper, but the mushu pancake, they call it, or the tortilla. So I love it. So I needed to recreate it. That was kind of the start of this meal prep. I came up with that one idea, and then I was like, okay, what else can I make with the same chicken? And then I came up with the Paillard idea. It all kind of stems from one recipe that inspires me. So get your garlic minced, and we're going to throw that into that pan. The mushrooms should be starting to release all that beautiful juice and cooking and wilting down. You don't want that ginger or the garlic to burn, so be sure to keep moving it around. All right. And get that cabbage in there. Let that start wilting, okay? So mix around those mushrooms. And here I was just telling you that it's already been like 45 minutes and we haven't gotten that much done. But I promise you the rest of this prep is a lot quicker. Just bear with me. I promise you it'll be worth it. That chicken is bomb. You're going to love it. It's a really good prep. We were one happy family with this week's menu. All right, so kind of like when you're making spinach, let it sort of wilt down a little bit. Once there's more room, you could flip the under part over so that the uncooked part can start cooking, and then add more cabbage gradually as there is more room. You'll see it'll wilt down to a lot less cabbage once it's cooked. All right, and what's going to help it cook even more is by adding these liquids. So we're going to add our soy sauce. We're going to add some sesame oil and hoisin sauce. Such an amazing ingredient. If you cannot find hoisin sauce, or you don't want to buy hoisin sauce at this point, especially like pre-Passover, you could omit it. You could also just sprinkle in a little bit of either honey or a little bit of brown sugar to give a similar effect. You just kind of want that like tangy brown sugary kind of flavor. Or you could add a mixture of teriyaki sauce and or barbecue sauce for a very similar texture and flavor profile. Okay. This sesame oil is spicy. I've been using it. I used it last week because I ran out of oil. And that's kind of all I had. I didn't realize how spicy it was until my kids started eating something and freaked out because it was so spicy. So I'm just adding a touch, but put that sesame oil in there if you have. So good. Get your soy sauce in, and the steam from the soy sauce is going to help cook everything faster as well and keep stuff from burning at the bottom of the pan. So throw that in there. Hear that sizzle. Love it. Smells so good. And keep moving that cabbage around and add more as needed. All right, so just take the cooked cabbage, put it on top, and let the uncooked cabbage start reaching the bottom of the pan where the heat is, so it can start cooking as well. And now that there's more room in there, you could probably add some more cabbage. All right, you want to work with a nice big pan and on pretty high heat. If you have a wok, all power to you. That's awesome. Super legit. I should get a wok. I'll look into that. And the whole point of a wok is that it's so big and it's great for fast cooking because it has a lot of surface area, which I always talk about. So it helps brown things really nicely. It helps cook things really quickly. You can work on super high heat, and also the shape of it is great for flipping because you don't really see, chefs in Chinese restaurants using kitchen utensils often. They usually just kind of flip with their wok. So it has those kind of edges and that openness so that you could flip easily without any utensils. I mean, how's that for saving on dishes, right? Pretty cool. So here I'm just letting you know about hoisin sauce. It's not the healthiest ingredient. There's sugar in it, but it's mostly a bean paste, I'm pretty sure is what it is, like a fermented bean paste. Super flavorful. It's sweet and tangy. But again, you could always use barbecue sauce or teriyaki sauce instead for very similar effect, or a little bit of brown sugar. I'm just adding a little bit. A little bit goes a long way. Okay, maybe a lot of it. But it's so good. Kids love this. It's so good. And it's still way healthier than Chinese food. You know what's going in it. You can control it. So it's definitely a better option than grimy Chinese. All right, keep mixing those around. Reintroduce those flavors. Let the uncooked cabbage start cooking by moving things around. All right, and then all we have left to do in this recipe, we're going to get our scallions in there, and we're going to get that mushu chicken that we had reserved in there as well. We're just going to slice it up into thin little strips and throw it in there. So good. I wish I knew what I was saying. No clue. I told you, this is a really good prep. I had so much good information on there. But it's cool. All right, just keep moving all that around. You want to work on pretty high heat. And guys, we're almost done. We're going to get our scallions in there. Just roughly chop those. And I like to throw them in while it's cooking. You could just garnish it with it at the end, but I really like cooking them slightly, especially the white parts. I like when they're cooked through a little bit so that it's not too strong of an onion flavor. So I'm throwing that in now. And then we're going to get our chicken in there, and we'll be good to go. It smells so good. Chinese food makes me excited. All right, getting rid of that tongue officially now, because we are done with that. And I'm just grabbing another cutting board, because this chicken, first of all, I don't want to just dirty up my board. Plus, it's not fully cooked through, so I'd rather just cut it on there. So we're just taking all that chicken that you reserved and just thinly slicing it and throwing it in that pan. And all those flavors are going to come together. It's going to be so delicious. Oh, I love this recipe. You're going to love it. So good. We love Chinese food in our house, if you couldn't tell. All right, throw that in there. No clue what I was saying. All right, last piece. Here we go. Chop that up and throw it in your pan. Boom. Move your chicken. We're done. Give it a mix around. Let all those flavors come together, okay? Let that chicken finish cooking completely while developing all those flavors in there. Let everyone get to know each other in that pan. Pretty cool, right? We just made the chicken once, but we're using it in 2 different ways. Normally we'll do that later on in the week, where we'll make one chicken and then later on in the week we'll repurpose that chicken in an egg roll or something. But we are making it once during the prep and utilizing it another way during the prep. So that's great. But what's cool about that is that you could just buy a large batch of chicken breast and we're using it in 2 ways. So that is really how we save money here, because you're already buying one thing. So if you could just buy something in bulk, that's even better. All right, I think I'm just washing off my hands here. We are going to get started on our salmon burgers, okay? We're so close to being done, you guys. Give that one more mix around. You guys are rock stars. We are getting through this. This was like one of the longest preps that we've done. And that's why, like, needing to record this again, I was like, I don't want to have to record this again. It was so good. But it's cool. We got this, okay? And I know you guys are rocking it right now. As annoying as it is. Thank you for bearing with me. All right, clean up your workspace a teeny tiny bit, and we're going to get our salmon burgers ready. So if you could buy your salmon pre-chopped like this, you will save a lot of time. It's about 1.5 pounds of salmon. So get it in a large bowl, and we're just going to throw all of our ingredients into that bowl, cover it, and store it for the week. All right, but the first thing we have to do is just saute some onions and peppers. Those onions and peppers, again, we're using it 2 different ways. So you should be sauteing 2 peppers and 2 onions. Today I'm just doing 1 of each. Number 1 reason being my grocer didn't buy me a second pepper. I only got 1. But it's cool because we're not making the quesadillas on Thursday. So we're just doing 1 pepper and 1 onion today. So I'm adjusting slightly. But you should have 2 peppers and 2 onions that you're going to saute in that pan. So you're going to saute all of it. So just cut your pepper up. You guys know I love to cut my pepper in this way. Just cut around those seeds. It makes it so easy. And we're just going to dice this, okay? So I'm cutting into strips first. And then turn it and go the other way. You know, I always tell you guys that we should, we always talk about doing knife skills. I should really just take little clips from these videos just like this and post those, because I really do show you all my knife skills in these videos. So I should just make little snippet videos using these videos I already have and maybe do some voiceovers on how to actually do it. Or we could do some music in the background and have little pointers and tips and tricks that kind of flash onto the screen. Not a bad idea. Cool. All right. So you should have 2 peppers in there. Not sure what I just said. I just cracked myself up somehow. Not sure what I was saying. Kind of curious though now. But you should get 2 peppers in there and 2 onions. So you just peel the onion, cut the tops and bottoms off, peel it. We're going to cut it in half and give it a dice, okay? And now these peppers and onions, again, some of it you're going to be reserving for those quesadillas later on in the week. And some you are going to be reserving for the salmon burgers, okay? So 1 cup is going to be going in the salmon burgers. All right? So essentially what you're going to do, you're going to saute all of this and then take 1 cup of it and use it in your salmon burgers. The rest save for later in the week for your quesadillas. Oh, I love quesadillas so much. They're so good. All right, so cut those little slits in your onion, both directions, like a little grid, and make sure you're tucking those fingers under and chop away. You see, I do knife skills here. I am going to turn these into some little quick videos for you guys. That is a fun idea. Boom. Okay. You see, having to do this voiceover and watch through these videos wasn't so bad after all, because guess what? Because you guys are putting up with this voiceover video now, I am going to bring you guys some great video content utilizing these knife skills from the videos. I promise. I'm on it. All right. I just went to go get my bread. Take a sip of your drink, whatever it may be. Stay hydrated. All right. Just letting you know, it's been 56 minutes. Almost done. I think we finished this in like an hour and 10 minutes. Okay. And the only reason why it took so long, not because I think it was complicated, it just takes some time to get through that chicken flipping, as you guys know. All right, so saute those onions and peppers. You could even season with a little bit of salt like I always do. It helps things go a little bit faster. Keep mixing those around. All right, and have all of your ingredients standing by for those salmon burgers, because we're just going to get everything thrown into that bowl. All right, we're getting through the rest of this prep really quickly. Let's do this thing. All right, we just have the salmon burgers and then the green goddess sauce, and we're done. So we have our salmon in there. I finally chopped it up myself, but you could have your fishmonger either grind it for you or chop it for you, skin off, bones removed. All right, you could totally do it yourself, but if you could have someone do it for you, even easier. And these salmon burgers, you guys, I swear you're going to love them. I think they're one of my favorite recipes I've ever written. Ever. All right. All right. Let's do this, okay? I'm just throwing everything in. So I have breadcrumbs. I have my egg. We're going to grab our bread. And if you guys have made my meatballs before or meatloaves, you know my little bread trick. You take your piece of bread. Sounds kind of weird, kind of gross. You wet it, run it under some water, and then you kind of squeeze out that water to dry it off a little bit. And then essentially you're just going to like crumble it into those salmon burgers. And what that does, I know it looks weird, but what that does is make a really moist salmon burger, because it's not just like putting breadcrumbs, which just pulls moisture out. You're adding a binder, but you're still reintroducing some more, moisture as well. So just trust me on this one. It's a great trick. And I do it in my meatballs, and it makes the fluffiest, moistest meatballs ever. So I use a nice mix of panko, which gives it the crisp and crunchiness factor, and 1 slice of bread. If you're celiac or anything like that, you can use any kind of bread you like. All right. So, all right, here we go. What else do we need here? Okay, so we did the whole wheat, the sandwich bread. We did the panko. We have our salmon in there. Season it up with some salt, pepper. All right, and onion powder and Old Bay seasoning. I got some questions about Old Bay seasoning. You could Google it. It's just a spice mixture. You can really make your own. There's like celery salt in there. It's just a nice spice blend. You could completely omit it and just use any seasoning you want. To do some celery salt if you have, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder at the end. I mean, don't go crazy looking for it, but if you can get it, it's a great spice seasoning for seafood and beyond. I love it. And you can order it online, and it like lasts forever. All right, and I'm just going to get some Worcestershire sauce, which I forgot to grab. That also adds that like brininess. It's like a fish sauce, so good. Make sure you keep mixing around those vegetables. Don't neglect them. Throw your Worcestershire sauce in there, and the egg we already put in there. So that's the whole thing. We're just going to add our herbs. So I have some parsley and basil. And you could do any herbs you want. If you want to add dill, if you want to add dill and parsley. I'm using dill and parsley right now, as you see. But you could use basil for sure. Really any herbs that you bought at the grocery store or that you have lying around. But fresh herbs in here keep these so fresh and light and vibrant. I'm obsessed with the herbs in it. It makes it. So try to pull the stems off. You can either throw them away or save them to make a chicken or vegetable stock. It's great for that. Hashtag zero waste. All right, gather them all together. Go through, chop, chop, chop. And then start doing that rocking motion. That's it, my friends. I look like a machine doing that. I've never actually watched through these videos. So fun, though. I love cutting. Can you tell the enjoyment? So fulfilling. Look at that. Except there was a full piece of dill that got in there somehow. I'm not sure how. Do you see that piece of dill? Don't worry. I find it at some point. Wait for it. You'll see. All right. Go rinse your hands. Dry off. And then we're just going to take those vegetables off of the heat when they're ready. And you want them to cool a little bit before you put it into that salmon burger. We're not cooking the salmon burgers tonight. You can if you wanted to. But you've been cooking for a while already. So don't drive yourself nuts. We're going to store it in the fridge and cook them fresh tomorrow night or Monday night or whenever you want to cook them. But hopefully it's the next day and no later than that. Okay? Let it cool off before you add it to the salmon because it's going to start kind of cooking the salmon slightly, which you don't really want to do. So put it off into a separate bowl. I guess the storage bowl that you're going to be using for your quesadillas. So because remember, a cup of that vegetable is going to be going into our salmon burgers. The rest is going to be going in our quesadillas. So I'm just taking all of it, throwing it all in this bowl just to get it off of that heat so it starts to cool off. And when it cools a little bit more, I definitely did not wait long enough to put it in there, but try to let it cool before putting it into your burger mixture, okay? Yum. Peppers and onions are the best combo. And what's so funny about salmon burgers like this, using fresh ground salmon, I made this for a client like 7 years ago, literally. I remember there was an Ina Garden recipe that inspired me. She had sent me that recipe and said she wants something similar, except it had kind of more of like an Asian-y flair. So I've been making salmon burgers this way for a really long time, and I so prefer this technique and this flavor than canned salmon. It has such a different flavor. It's crazy. It's like so much less fishy and, trust me on this one. It's so much better. If you're not a salmon lover, we're going to convert you today, okay? You're going to love these burgers, I promise. And I've been making them in the air fryer. So if you have an air fryer, you can cook these and get them crisp and beautiful and delicious with zero oil, especially because salmon has natural oils in it. It's a great thing for the air fryer. It gets nice and crispy and beautiful, and you don't need any additional oil. So that's how I did mine, and I ate 2 of them. I'm obsessed. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do, you guys are amazing. Home stretch. I promise we're there. All right, all we're going to do now is just bang out this green goddess sauce. I have my immersion blender standing by. If you don't have one, get one. It's amazing. Okay, it's such an inexpensive tool. I have it linked on my site and on the shop section on Prep and Rally on Instagram. So just invest in one. It's like maybe $30, $40 at most. I've had mine. I think my mom bought me mine actually when I first started blogging like 8 years ago. I kid you not. I've had it forever. So use it because it's the greatest thing for making dressings. Okay, Dini, stop talking. Storage container. Use whatever you're going to be storing this in for the week, which is why I love an immersion blender. We have our mayo. We have our fresh parsley, our fresh basil. You could do dill as well. Any mixture of herbs that you like. I put in some apple cider vinegar as well. Get your herbs in there. And the best part about blending this with a blender is that you do not need to do any chopping or dicing yourself. Just throw it in there. The immersion blender is going to do all that work for you. All right. And the greatest part about it is that you could blend everything in the container that you're actually going to be storing in for the week. And that way you don't need to use up a million different containers and dirty everything up. Just goes right in, blend it. So easy. Look at that. You just take the top off. You could clean it easily. It's like one of my favorite kitchen tools. Easy to clean, easy to use, so versatile. Get one. I should have another one. I want more. I love them. All right, get your lemon juice in there. Some nice fresh lemon juice. Try to use real lemons if you can. Makes it so much better. All right, we already have our vinegar in there. We have our dill in there. We have our parsley in there. Mayo. All that is left, my friends, to put in 1 garlic clove. We're going to add some olive oil, season it up with some salt and pepper, and blend away. Okay? You have basically made it, you guys. You should be feeling so good right now, knowing you have a fridge stocked with some of the most amazing food for the week. You're going to be stress-free. You're going to be so happy. And I always say it's kind of like a workout. It's until you get there or until you put on your workout clothing, it's like, oh, I can't do it. And then once you have all of your groceries ordered, you have everything lined up and ready for you to prep and set up. That's the hardest part, is just like setting up your stations and getting, the energy to do it. Once you do it, it's usually an hour or less. Usually it's closer to 30 to 40 minutes max, and we bang it out. Wait till, I think, end of April. We're doing one that literally is a 15-minute meal prep. You're going to freak out. You're going to love it. But for now, just know that you're amazing for being here and for showing up, and you're making your week better because you're doing it. So you're here. You made it. You did it. You should be feeling so good, patting yourself up in the back. And yeah. All right. Make sure that your immersion blender is underneath that liquid. Otherwise, it's going to spray all over yourself and all over your kitchen. All right. Give it a nice blitz. And the longer you blend it for, the more green it's going to turn. And I happen to love that it's green. I mean, it's called a green goddess sauce. So it should be pretty green. And you could even add more herbs to it if you like. But this is one of the best sauces. I use it on everything. We've used it before. I think it was week 2 meal prep. Week 3. Same recipe. We used it on our salmon fish sticks. Here we are using it on our salmon burgers. Yum, so good. As you see, I'm obsessed. It makes me so happy. Take the salmon mixture, cover it up with either some saran wrap. Oh, but first let's put our vegetables in. As you see, there's steam there. Definitely not cool enough. And I just spilled. Basically, don't do what I'm doing. But try to let those vegetables cool a little bit more. I just need to get through this video for you. But if you could let it cool a little bit more, even better. But don't worry, because the salmon is very cold right now and it will bring down that temperature. But if you can, let it cool is moral of the story. Okay? Then add it to your salmon mixture. Reserve the rest of those onions and peppers for later on in the week for your quesadillas. Put some saran wrap or tinfoil, cover up that bowl, and save that for later in the week. Save this bowl here for your quesadillas, okay? We have our green goddess sauce as well. Okay, we have that chicken Paillard. We have our Orzo with peas, our mushu chicken over there, and then we have the 2 pans of roasted vegetables. You guys, you completely rocked it. We have 7 different things that we banged out today. You're going to love these recipes. I know that was kind of a really, really long prep, but I'm so impressed by you, and I'm so proud of you for sticking it out, especially with this annoying voiceover. So sorry for annoying you with this. I love you guys, and have an amazing week. I can't wait to hear how the week goes. I hope this video was helpful, even though it wasn't, our usual. But be sure to head to Instagram, share your pictures. We have a referral program now, so anybody that you get to subscribe using your link, you make $5, easy money, and you guys share everything anyways. So be sure to set up your link and get going with our referral program, because there's a lot of value. All right. Plus, we're spreading the word and helping other crazy busy mommies get through the week with ease. Okay. So I love you guys so much. Have an amazing, amazing week. Thanks for sticking it out. And I cannot wait to see how you enjoy everything. All right. See you guys next week, hopefully with sound. Bye, guys.